Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sybil Amuti.
And don't you just love how I brought in our studio audience today? Those are my friends and family, y'all. They're here to clap it up and celebrate this great girlfriend magic that is happening here on the show. So without further ado, grab something great to drink, grab your pen and paper, and get ready for this week's episode. Enjoy. Morgan Harper Nichols, are you ready?
I am. Thank you so much for having me.
I love it. Do you love how I sang your name? Was that cool?
Yeah, it sounded so official. I was like, I appreciate that.
Morgan Harper Nichols. I'm so excited to have you on today, Morgan. Morgan, welcome to your great girlfriend family. We're all here with you, for you, always cheering and supporting you on and through your journey on the gram, and as a writer and as a mom and a poet, artist, musician, just all around Renaissance woman, or should I just say woman?
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes, girl.
That means a lot. And it's so funny too, because even hearing everything you just said, I'm like, wow, even with all of that, I'm still a watered down version of my mom. Like my mom is like, does all those things and like a bunch of other stuff. So like my sister, I have one sister, and we're kind of like our mom, but split in two. So yeah, it's just in my DNA, I guess. We just do a bunch of things.
and beautifully done, and so authentically done, and like that lens and that mirror of beauty and authenticity, the convergence of the two is what I think really makes your writing style and your artistry just so connective for people. It's just, you know, when I see your post and I read your writing, I'm like, yep, thank you. Permission granted.
Wow.
Release done. It is happening. Like it all happens. And you know, the power of social media is that you get to spread your message far and wide with one post, right?
Yeah, it's so incredible. I actually was not, I had tried so many different blogs, and I tried to create something online for so long, but actually my poetry and art, the way that it ended up getting shared, I shared it on Pinterest actually. Wow. And it was just a personal account at that time. I wasn't really using it that much. And then my work started to get shared over there, and then people started to share it on Instagram. So I was like, well, I guess I should share it on Instagram and Twitter and all the things. But yeah, it took me a minute to work up the courage. I still have to work up the courage to.
Really?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I would never guess that.
Even this morning, I literally, the thing that I posted today, I spent hours on it. And then I read it to my husband. I was like, I think this is so dumb. I shouldn't share this. Should I? And he was like, no, share it. It's fine.
Yes.
It's so silly, but I still deal with that. So
you
when
just
I'm writing
set somebody
about
free today. You just set somebody with that one message of like, even I struggle with like that. Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite word, honestly, right now is practice. Like I'm practicing everything. Like I practice courage. I have not figured out courage. I have not, it's a practice for me. And some days I have more courage than others. Like just considering everything that's going on in the world over the past year, some days I'm like, oh no, I got something to say.
Right.
And I know right away, but sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
So it varies quite a bit. So I just try to give myself permission to allow for that flow. It's like, it doesn't have to be the same every day. So
you know what? You said something so good, because there were so many moments in 2020 where I was like, I'm not ready to speak. I'm ready to I need to sit back for a second. And I probably was late to the party on a few messages, because I was like, here I am, I'm ready now. But I don't care. It was my flow, and I felt comfortable, and I felt honest. Because some of the times I don't have a full thought. I have a whole range of emotions that are just scrambling.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You know, and isn't that the human part of us?
Get that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And it's really hard to try to fit that online, you know, in a comment section or in a caption box. Like it's hard to really pull all that together. So One thing I say a lot now, I'm just like, well, I've got all this stuff going on, but I'm just going to talk about this today. Like, I think a few weekends ago, I had some flowers like from the grocery store, and they were just sitting on my table, and I started taking pictures of them, and then I painted over them. And I normally put words with a lot of my stuff.
Yeah.
But I just shared those. I was like, I don't have any words. I just want to share these flowers.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I have. And yeah, I just think that it's hard when social media or using the internet becomes a part of your job or your profession. I think sometimes I feel the pressure of like, okay, I need to be professional, like no typos, no mistakes, like I have to keep everything right. But it's just also simultaneously remembering it's like you are a human. And you also come from a long line of people who have had to work very hard. And like one of my favorite, her name's Dr. Rosales Mesa on Instagram, and she said something a while ago that I always remember. And she said, "Rest for your ancestors who were not able to."
Girl,
and I just I have to say that to myself like once a week. It's like, okay, yes, this is your job. Yes, this is what is like keeping the lights on, doing this work. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, labor is not the only thing you were made to do.
Yeah.
Like,
And do you want to be known
yeah.
for your labor, or do you want to be known for, your expression and the things that you talk about with your artistry? Because you say you see your art as a way of connecting with others, to stay curious and grow in empathy. That's such a beautiful like way to show up in the world. And that, I war with it myself, wanting to do it all, want to make sure I'm just never want to give up on the things that I love. And so, but also understanding the power of rest and rejuvenation.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I was listening, I don't even know what song this was, but Jay-Z was on, you know how he's always calling out people on the track, Tata, so-and-so, turn me up. And he said, let it breathe. I can't remember what song it was, but something about that one line, let it breathe. I was like, just let the music sit sometimes, just sometimes just let it breathe. And I was like, let life breathe, right? Like,
I love that.
Let it breathe. I know he meant it in one space, but I took it and I grabbed it as a mom, a wife, a woman in business. I was like, Sybil, let it breathe. Like,
yes, that is so true. Yeah, it applies to, I actually love looking at music for lessons like that. Because I do have a music background, and I think about, I feel like I learned a lot about working with other people. I learned a lot about pacing myself. It's like, you can't rush a song. It's like,
come on. Yeah.
It literally won't sound right if you play it too fast.
And we
so it's like you have to.
Don't we rush life?
Exactly.
Don't we rush life?
Yeah, exactly. And it's so funny too, because I remember performing, because I just get so anxious performing, I actually would rush a lot of my songs. I feel like, why are you singing it so fast? Like, slow it down, let people hear. And I'm like, wow, that's the same with my life. I need to slow it down and let it breathe.
It's so true. I realized that my husband and I would talk about this all the time. We had our first son, he's 12, and we would parent him. And in the same breath, we're parenting ourselves.
Oh my goodness, that's so true.
Or I hear God through my parenting. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not for him. It's for me. Like, I'm a student now. Like, it's
my goodness. Yes.
Like, slow it down.
Yes, that is absolutely. I lately my son, he's 22 months, and this kid is determined. Like, if he, like, one time he figured out, he's very strong. He figured out how to open the fridge, and now he will stand there for way too long trying to figure out how to open it. And then I'm just like, wow, where did you get this persistence from? I'm like, oh, wait a second. Like, I think I know.
Apple tree.
Like, both of your parents. Woo. So. Yeah,
it's good though, isn't it good? Because look, speaking of how far you have come, right? We'll speak of that, because I think that it's important that there's a time and space and place for persistence, right? For how we show up for ourselves, and how we share space with other people. And I think that, your sequence has not been by chance. You know, I guess that travel from Pinterest over to to the gram, rather, to Twitter and all the other spaces, that was a sequence of growth and development and nurture, even for your brand and for your message, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to talk about how far you've come, because I also know with that, there have been some dark or some low moments, right?
Yeah.
And I want to know how you've navigated. And I also want to just jump into an adult diagnosis of autism, because I do think that you are not alone. And I think that you're navigating with a whole community of women who understand that experience.
Oh my goodness. Yes, you just touched on so many things I love talking about, because it's just so true to me and how I like to connect with others. And yeah, I just got diagnosed with autism a month ago, exactly a month ago. And it's interesting because while the diagnosis is new, the things that I've struggled with my whole life. So I've lived up until this point struggling in a lot of areas where I didn't have a name for the struggle. I didn't know what I was struggling with. I knew I was having a hard time, but I would say, "Oh, maybe I just need more sleep," or maybe I needed to work in a different job or a different field. I would always assume it was something else, not knowing that there were things actually going on inside of me that were beyond what I knew or could control. And it's just been yeah, I had a moment today actually where I was thinking in my new book, How Far You Have Come, there are two stories in there that are barely in the book, because they are such like they both happened in college, and I am so embarrassed by these stories. And I'm like, why did I put this, not only write about it, but put it in a book for strangers to read, and possibly people I went to school with to read this. Like, one of the stories, my own sister heard me talking about it. She's like, wait, what? I didn't even know that happened. And the thing is like, some people may read these stories and say, oh, that's not that big of a deal. Like, whatever, these things happen. But for me, they were points of shame and places where I judged myself so much. And I can honestly say, looking back on those stories now, I'm like, wow, I had no idea why I was struggling, or even how intense my autism was. I had no idea. And yeah, I was still breathing through. I was still pacing through. I was still seeking beauty. I was still learning about grace, even though there was so much going on that was just so overwhelming for me, so chaotic. And that is honestly like the cover of the book is actually an iPhone photo that I took.
Did you take that? Okay,
yeah,
it's gorgeous.
Thank you. I took it on my iPhone in 2014.
Wow.
And that photo is another, and I write about it in the book, and that photo is another moment of that exact thing. I was in this beautiful place, but I was going through in a difficult time. And that's honestly kind of my biggest hope for everyone, is that my hope for everybody is that we can all look back in our stories and see the courage and the beauty that was there all along. I believe that we could be courageous in the future. And I also think that we've already been courageous.
Yes,
and it's like, if we look back, we'll see that. So.
Yes, we have. Morgan, that's a whole sermon there, because, we tend to look back and see the hardest parts of what we've gone through. But I have now matured to a place where I look back and I'm like, you always had it. Like, I may not have known that I had it, but I always had it, because there was nothing. I had to bring myself out of the ugly things and the harsh moments, and with the grace to do so. But ultimately, we had to activate choice to come through and to choose to do better, or even ask big questions, to make it to the next side of curiosity. So I want to know from you, Morgan, what was it that you were asking that led you to even be tested for autism?
Yeah, so my parents thought that it could be a possibility when I was younger, but just back in the 90s when I was growing up, it was, girls, especially Black girls, there's nothing, it was a struggle to get just information alone.
Yeah.
So it was always kind of there in the back of my mind when I was younger. And then I think as I kind of got to high school and college, I wasn't really thinking about it much. And it wasn't until my late 20s, and then even more so over this past year, I was just noticing, wow, now that, during the pandemic, now that I'm not out at a lot of events and I'm not traveling, I was like, I actually physically feel a little bit better, just because those things overwhelm me. Even though I enjoy them, like I love to travel, I love to meet people, it takes a huge toll on me. And I always thought, I was like, well, I'm an introvert, okay, but I was like, I don't know, I think it might be more than this. And then it was literally videos of girls of women on TikTok who had been diagnosed as women.
Wow.
And I was like, I feel like they're describing my whole life. And
wow.
That's what gave me the courage to pursue a diagnosis and just get some help. It was it was videos on TikTok.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just so grateful that I went that direction, because it's really scary to seek help, especially I did have an experience a few years ago where my doctor was like, you're perfectly normal, you have nothing to worry about. And he just wrote me off. And that stayed with me, unfortunately. I was like, I don't want to be written off again.
Yes. Oh my God.
My mom has a chronic pain illness, and I've seen her get written off a lot. And it's painful to watch. And I'm like, I don't want to go through that. So it took a lot of courage to Google and find someone and reach out.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that I did, because it's having that explanation, having that understanding now, it's just made such a difference in my life. It really has.
So like, how do you take that knowledge and apply it to give yourself more grace on a daily basis?
The first thing that the specialist that I see, the first thing she said after reading my full diagnosis, which is like a dissertation, it was very long. I was like, whoa, I did not. Wow. Okay. That's a lot. That's a lot. The very first thing she said is, and it's not your fault. And I just lost it. No one had ever said that to me. And just hearing someone who knew the depth of what I was going through say that to me, like that set me free in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I felt permission to one thing that's changed in my life now is recognizing that I need assistance in areas that I thought I could handle on my own, like even managing my email. I used to be like, nope, I have to do it. I'm a businesswoman. I'm a professional. It's on me. Like, get it together. But now I'm like, no, it's okay to say, hey, I need help with this. So I literally have someone in my inbox with me, making sure that things get seen and read and responded to. And a year ago, I would not have been comfortable even sharing what I just shared, because I'm like, no, I have to like do these things on my own. This is something that normal adults do. But it's like, what is normal? Like we all in one way or another need help. And there is no shame in asking for help. There's no shame in needing assistance for whatever it is. So
that's right.
Yeah, that is new for me. That is an area of of growth that I can definitely see, and I'm super grateful.
I love that you talked about freedom, like you were just saying, this freedom to even articulate these things. There's so much bondage and pain and confusion and and normalizing pain. Like we've all dealt with that bondage and how we feel trapped in it. And I think that one of the extraordinary marks of the work that you're doing is that you are unshackling people with the masterful storytelling, with your words and with your intention. And that freedom for us to feel and experience life right where we are and feel free, even if we're in the midst of things, because there's always going to be things, right? But I think that entitlement that your work gives us is just so, I hope this. I want to just deposit this for you to always have that. It's liberating. It is liberating. And if you never have ever heard that, today will be the day that you have heard.
Well, thank you.
Just how liberating. What's your favorite part of the newest book?
Oh, It's the cover, I think.
The cover is dope.
The cover is
it's fresh.
Thank you. Because I'm like, I took this on my phone. It's like super sleep deprived and broke and tired. And it turned into this whole other thing all these years later.
I looked at it and I was like, where is this? Is this?
It's in New Mexico. It's in New Mexico. Yes.
Okay.
So leaving Albuquerque. So yeah, we had stayed there the night before and we woke up leaving at sunrise. And it's like anyone could have taken the photo because it was so beautiful, but it just blows my mind. I was like, I literally just took this photo passively on my phone, like, oh, sunrise is nice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, here I am 7 years later.
Yeah.
It is the cover of a book. I was not making art at the time. I was not writing poetry at the time. I wasn't doing any of that. So it's such a reminder to me of like, what things am I doing today? Have I started today that I'm not even going to see the fruit of until like 7 years from now? I am just so, I don't know. I love that. I love thinking about that.
Yeah. This is so powerful. It says in the midst of the hurt and the mundane, the questions and the not yets, we can forget just how far we've come. Morgan weaves together personal reflections with her signature poems to share her journey to reclaim moments of brokenness, division, and pain and re-envision them. So powerful as experiences of reconciliation, unity, and hope. That's freedom, girl. That is like when you give yourself to the ability to re-envision, reimagine, and then take claim of a new story, a new message. That's freedom. That is like, I hope you have the tattoo. I just hope you have.
I think that would be a good one. That would be a great one. I could never get a tattoo. I'm too indecisive.
Like, that was one of my shame stories from college. I got the tattoo and I'm like, what in the world? And why in the world? And how in the world? And and I'm just like, you know what? I'm free, but it did happen. That's mine. But but I would tell no one to like, no, it's the most painful. I would give birth again before I do another tattoo. But that's a whole other episode.
I'll take your word on it.
Yeah, it's pain galore. But Morgan, what will be your legacy as an artist? What is it that you want to be your legacy? What are you painting right now?
Oh my goodness, I love that question. So there is a famous, well, she should be known more than she is known. So I'm saying famous, a Black sculptor. Her name was Augusta Savage. Oh. And she just did these incredible, like if you just Google Augusta, like Augusta, Georgia, Augusta Savage, her work is just so incredible. And I'm paraphrasing, but she actually said this about her legacy, and I just kind of take it as my own. Okay. And she said that when my legacy is not in my artwork, but it's in my students' work. And it's in the people that I inspired. Mm-hmm. So for me, I'm like, yep, that's what I want. Like if what I do, my hope is that if there's some 12, 13-year-old out there who is inspired by me, if they are, I hope that they go way further than I've ever gone, that I hope they are way better than me. I just hope that they continue to grow and carry on. I believe in that so much. I mean, I don't think I could be here without all the people that came before me. So to me, that just takes the pressure off. It's just like, yeah, I'm just one little part in this greater story of passing the baton on. And that's what I hope. So, yeah.
Well, there's those footsteps that footsteps in the sand. And ultimately, as we do take those steps, then the children behind us come and they take those steps, right? Because they've already seen a blueprint, so they know where to go. So that's super powerful. So I love that. Thank you, Augusta. We love that. It's beautiful.
Yes, I love that.
Even
so
in
much.
that she left that for you to pick up was powerful.
Yeah. And one thing I'll add to what I loved about her work is one of her most famous pieces was featured at the World's Fair way back, get the year it was, but she could not afford to because I guess they didn't pay her, which is so wild. Like she had this whole exhibit, was not paid enough, so it was destroyed. It's this beauty. If you see the sculpture, it brought tears to my eyes the first time I saw it. I was like, this was destroyed. So just for her to say that, I was like, wow, like her work didn't even get to make it to a museum.
Yeah.
And she still believed in that legacy just being passed on. So yeah, I could talk about that all day.
I love that. I love that. Okay, great girlfriends. We've got 10 copies of How Far You Have Come available for those who email the first 10 to email at welcome@thegreatgirlfriends.com. We have a copy that we're going to put in the mail for you. Morgan, that feels like it feels like a ridiculous question, but I'm going to go ahead and ask, where can they keep up with you?
Well, thank you for asking. Yeah, so I'm Morgan Harper Nichols pretty much everywhere on Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, YouTube, and then morganharpernichols.com.
I love it. I love it. Morgan, blessings to you and your journey. Keep it up. Keep loving and keep giving yourself the freedom and giving us the freedom through your permissions. We really, really are grateful for your contribution, and we thank you for being here with us today.
Well, thank you as well. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great girlfriends, did you enjoy this week's episode of the podcast? If so, would you please give us your amazing review on iTunes? Every single review helps another great girlfriend get plugged into the podcast, into the community. Speaking of community, make sure you join our Facebook group, The Great Girlfriends. You follow us on Instagram at The Great Girlfriends and on Twitter at @the_great GFS. Last but not least, we'd like to thank my amazing husband, Kwaku, Sam and Dilly, and all of you for being a part of the global community that makes us so strong. Please remember to share with your friends. Keep listening and keep being a great girlfriend. I'm Sybil Amuti, and I'm out. Peace.